Tea Time today, 352-401-6917.
On the first and third Wednesday mornings each month at 9:05 a.m., Robert Colin with On Top of the World will be our guest as we learn all about the exciting lifestyle and new home choices available at Ocala's premier adult active community, On Top of the World. From time to time, Robert will bring guests, and you're sure to enjoy our little chats. After all, you deserve the world, and we bring it to you. This is Ocala Talks with Tom Schmidt, bringing stories that are important to our community in and around Ocala. Plus, of course, a splash of sports as well. Now, here's your host, Tom.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to hour number 2. Ocala Talks on Wednesday.
School down the street, the Ina A. Colin Academy, and we brought in today our new principal, Sandy Rocan, Dr. Sandy Rocan. So I wanted to let her introduce her to the community in the great, excellent way we could do it here.
I'm glad that when you said her name and then you said Dr. Rocan, because when you earn that PhD, I mean, it's a pain. It's beautiful work to earn a PhD, right, Doctor?
A little difficult.
Get a little closer to that microphone.
Okay.
Right there you go.
Got it?
Yeah, it's not doctorate in education is not the easiest thing to come by.
No, sir, it isn't.
Now, what was because everybody before they were a principal were some sort of teacher, I would think. What did you teach for most of your career?
Well, most of my career I taught science, 6th through 9th grade science.
You taught middle school?
Middle school science.
Father Pat, if you're listening, I have another person up for sainthood. You know, when I was in school at Georgia Southern in the education department, we had, you got nicknames for your majors. Yeah. And we had construction paper majors. That was elementary school. You had hoodlum majors. That was high school. And you had puberty majors. There's nothing about puberty majors I wanted anything to do with. Because middle school it's different.
Very. You never know what you're going to get from the same student in the next 5 minutes.
You have no clue.
Yeah.
Now, what is it about the opportunity to come to the Charter Colon School that drew you to it?
Well, the Ina A. Colin Academy is going to be my capstone for my career. I came here because I want to retire here. And I had to look at something that spoke to my heart. And after I saw what King Colin and his foundation has done, I had to be a part of it. It just kept speaking to me again and again and again, because this community offers so much, and Ken does so much for the community. This was just our way of working together to build that trust back in the community for students and for kids to grow.
You know, when you say Ken does so much for the community, I'm on a committee that is putting together a golf tournament in November that's going to benefit Hospice of Marion County. And I brought up at the committee meeting that Robert comes to the show regularly. Would they like me to talk to Robert about maybe doing a donation for this tournament? And the lady from Hospice goes, King Colin and the family and the foundation, they do enough. It was one of those things because it's not advertised, because he does so much for the community without the community actually knowing, because he doesn't want to blow his own horn or everything.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we actually donated a whole house.
I know. I know.
Brand new house.
Well, that's what during this meeting, we were discussing all the stuff, and I had no idea that Ken does. So I knew Ken did a lot for the community, and the foundation does a lot for the community. You just didn't know how much. And so that does speak volumes that you wanted to be a part of that team.
Absolutely. The Kalesa family, we're going to be having the Aquatic Center, the
The
FAST Center.
natatorium, world-renowned natatorium when it's done.
Absolutely. The Olympic pool coming in. We also have the Ina A. Colon Academy, and we are going to grow that Parliament Circle to where it is a beacon.
Is the academy going to be K through 12?
Right now it's K through 8, but we're going to open K6 and add a grade every year.
So the goal eventually then, Robert, is K through 12.
Correct.
That's the goal, right?
That's the goal.
Right. Which is fantastic. Now, with that, are things in place already for extracurricular activities and everything that go with schools as they come?
Well, right now we hope to use the Aquatic Center.
Right.
That's one thing. The other part of that is we're going to be doing something called project-based learning, and we're going to be using social-emotional learning as well to tie that in. So those are the things that were picked out, that are selected now, and we will work with our team as soon as they're hired to build something unique.
Somebody asked me, because we were talking about this, about Kalesa and how it's coming along in the natatorium in the school. Somebody goes, yeah, but can my kids go there? It's a charter school in Marion County. Even if I don't live in Kalesa, can my kids go to school there? And I said, I don't know that answer, but I know somebody who does. So can anybody's kids in Marion County go to school there?
Absolutely. We will be having 2 town hall meetings, one October 5th and one October 7th. And then the lottery system will open. And so you will just upload everything into the system right there online, and we have a lottery system, and you'll know.
So you know how the magnet programs work here, especially like elementary school magnets, and you go in, you fill out the paperwork, and then you put it in, and the magnet work. Then the lottery works. It'll be the same exact kind of system. The lotteries that'll work. So that's how it'll get drafted. And there is some set asides for Kalesa, but it'll be open. I mean, a majority of students will be available for anywhere in the county.
When is the school's projected opening date?
August 2022.
So next
So
August.
next
Yep.
school year, not this school year, but next school year.
Correct.
So that's pretty. I mean, it's in the world of education. That's right around the corner.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Because lesson plans and all are done. Teachers are finishing up their lesson plans, blocking and doing their block and all now for this school year that's fixing to start in 3 weeks, I think.
Yes.
So,
The 10th.
and 180 days goes by quick.
It does. It does.
As a former teacher, when I was at school, I used to think, 180 days. Man, when is this year going to get over? As a teacher, you go, 180 days. Man, I don't have enough time to teach.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so tell us a little about the process you are going to use, the education thought process you're going to use with the learning that's different from maybe other schools.
Well, what we're going to do is we have what we call social emotional learning. If you capture the kids' hearts, which is, sharp minds, kind hearts, that's our motto. Once you capture the kids' hearts, you can teach and educate them. It's just that simple. If you can reach them, you can teach them.
She speaks volumes, folks. I knew at second grade that I had a teacher in the second grade. She came in, our second grade teacher, and gave us all a copy of a document that was way above our heads to understand. But she wanted us to read it and understand that it governed everything in our lives. And what she gave us was the Declaration of Independence. Mm-hmm. We had no idea. As second graders, we're 7 years old. You're not comprehending the Declaration of Independence. But then she told a story about how 56 men in a hot, oppressive July in Philadelphia in 1775 and 1776 became traitors to the crown to create the United States of America. She weaved this great story as a second grade teacher, and I fell in love with history.
Oh, yeah.
And from that moment on, 7 years old, I knew I was going to college. I knew I was getting a degree in history, and I knew that I was going to talk and promote why it's important to understand the history of our country from that moment forward.
Absolutely.
And it's because I fell in love with it. But long before I understood it, I fell in love with it.
All right, and social emotional learning is also about what you're saying, giving people or helping the students have the courage to be able to make those kind of decisions and to decide, how can I learn best? How can I do this? And how can I, be maximize who my potential is. And that's part of what social emotional learning is. But that's, one of the two major components of what we're about. And Sandy can talk to you about project-based learning as well.
Well, going back to the social emotional, once you have that connection, that relationship of that teacher that came in and handed you that paper.
I remember Miss Bruce.
Absolutely.
As I was talking about it, Miss Bruce the mental picture of Miss Bruce was right there in my head.
And that's an impact that teachers sometimes don't ever realize they have until that student comes back. Project-based learning, once we get the kids captured and the relationships are built, then we focus on the learning. And it's got to be real world, because our kids no longer learn in silos.
No.
So as information's being thrown at them 24/7, we are trying to prepare our kids now for jobs that have not even been created yet. I mean, when we were in school,
Fireman, policeman, teacher,
Exactly.
Astronaut.
Exactly. And no cell phones.
There was no
No
thought of a computer
computers.
programmers or none of that. There was no thought of that.
Not at all. And that hasn't been that long ago.
No. Well, yes, it has, but still.
Not that long. But in the scheme of things, we need to make education relevant today for our kids and give them the same opportunities as we give anyone else to be successful in our country, be good citizens and stewards of our nation.
And learning's changed.
Oh, yes.
Just in the last 20 years.
Oh, yes.
I don't even think about when I was at school. Just in the last 20 years, learning has changed to where textbooks
Oh, yeah.
aren't as important as they used to be.
Right. That's
Not
what
at
makes
all.
project-based learning so important, right?
Right.
Yes,
That's-
absolutely. Because you don't, the standards are the standards. So everybody has the standards. But textbooks are no longer the driving force, because those are not the actual systems that we are looking at now. Because you have these problems, real world problems that you want these children to critically think about. And believe it or not, we have 7 and 8-year-olds now that are making apps for phones to
Yeah.
and so those are some things that our kids are capable of if they're given the tools to do it and the time to do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Time is the real big thing. But how do you get kids to understand that, yes, it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, or it doesn't happen in 30 seconds. When all their lives, from the first time their parent puts their cell phone in their hand so that they let them be riding the child seat with the cell phone, everything that a child is exposed to now is in 30 seconds to 90 seconds. That's it.
Absolutely.
And yet you're not going to learn in 30 seconds or 90-second snippets. So that's a unique thing you have to bridge, because by the time a kid gets to school, they're used to instant gratification, because that's where we live now.
That's true. That is true. That's where the social emotional part comes in. You've got to marry those two so that they understand what resilience is, what grit is, and what this last year has taught kids a lot more about that, having to learn differently.
Where a little bit of your background, where did they find you and bring you to the charter school? A little bit of your background. Where are you from originally, and how'd you get into teaching?
Well, I was born and raised north of New Orleans, and I had that same teacher.
Metairie?
Actually, Ponchatoula.
Okay, I know where Ponchatoula is,
Yes, strawberry capital of the world.
too. It is.
And
Although Plant City would argue with you.
that's true. That's true. I noticed that on the billboard. I went to Southeastern, and I then transferred over to Houston and started teaching in Houston. I taught in Houston schools for 20 years. 20 years, and was an administrator K-12. And got my master's at University of Houston. And then I got my doctorate and my specialty degree at the Carson Newman's University in Tennessee.
Yeah, Carson Newman's great football program. I
Yes,
know that.
it
I know
is.
Carson Newman's got a great football program.
Yes, they do. And so
Now,
it
were you at Houston in the early '90s?
I was.
Yeah, she was there when Houston was pretty good at stuff.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
Andre Ware? I can't remember.
Yeah, they were pretty good. They were pretty good.
Yeah, they were. They were really
But
good.
Carson Newman's a great university in Tennessee too.
It is a wonderful university. I had extreme gratitude for what they've taught me, not only just personally and spiritually, but just the education program was incredible.
How did you? Because you've decided this is where you want to come and retire. That's what a lot of people do. How did you specifically find Calessa and find the academy?
It was strange. I had a very good friend that said, "This speaks to you. This is who you are. Check this out." And she sent me the link to the school. So I was like, well, let me see, because, I've been in public education for so long. Let me see what this is about. And I want to make sure this is truly in what the best interest of kids. Because
Certainly.
At the end of the day, only what's best for kids has been my motto since I walked in a classroom. The more I researched, the more I was like, I've got to have this job. I want this job. I want this community. The support that y'all have with your businesses, and even the Marion County School Board. I mean, they are phenomenal for our kids in this county. And that's just something that I really cherish as an educator, because you don't find that very often. You don't find it so easy to where you have Dean and Keith, Kevin, and Sheely.
Kevin Sheely.
Oh yeah, and
Dean Blinkhorn.
yes, and they just literally reached out to me and said, "What do you need?"
They do a great job at the CEP.
Phenomenal,
Phenomenal job.
phenomenal.
I reserved comment on your niceties to the school board, but that's just me. I'll just leave that alone.
Yeah, they really are terrific, and they
They
really
are.
are
They
smart.
really
they know
are.
what they're doing. So
I'll leave that alone.
Yeah.
I'll understand you're like
I don't-
why you like the school board, and I'll just leave it at that.
But mine is personal. I just, I watch my kids go through
Yes.
this year in COVID, and I got to see that they had a lot of
Absolutely.
courage, and compared to a lot of places in the country, and they took the risks that because and in the best interest of the children, and
Absolutely.
letting them be in school and letting them do what they did and letting them go back to athletics, and
They did take a lot of gambles
And-
that paid off, by the way.
And where a lot of kids in the country, and this is something we could talk about what effects the lockdowns had on it. I don't know if Marion County is going to have the same kind of consequences to our children that a lot of
By the
them
way,
have because of them.
third graders literature scores
Yeah.
did not. Marion County was one of only 12 schools
Yep.
that did not show a dip in third grade testing in literature. There were 4 schools that showed an advancement, 8 schools that stayed the same. Then the rest of the schools in the entire state dipped, and Marion County was one of the 8 that didn't. They didn't go up.
Absolutely.
But they didn't go down either. The school. I will give you this: the school board now is in better shape than I've seen it since probably Sue Mosley was on the school board. I'll give you that. Okay, and it is important that you have a working relationship with the school board, because I don't think people realize the charter school, even though it's at Calessa and it's an on top of the world thing, it still has to
It's a
work
public charter school.
It works in harmony underneath the school board.
Absolutely.
Right. And we have a great relationship with you've just talked with Stephen Ayers, who
Yes.
runs, he deals with charter
Phenomenal.
schools, and he's phenomenal, extremely intelligent guy, but just a lot of passion for the community and for making sure kids get what's best. So there's a lot of really great employees with the district, and even
There are a lot of great employees, 41,000 plus students, great students.
Oh, yeah.
I think overall, Marion County school systems gets it right. I think
They do.
overall they get it right. Do I have some problems with them every now and then? But if you didn't, I wouldn't be good at my job.
Right, and I think that kind of comes to like a question. I think that's Sandy can really address is like you've seen Marion County. You've been here for 2 months. What is it that you think that the INA Colon Academy? It's a setup question, but what do you think the INA Colon Academy can really do? What makes INA Colon Academy special? And what does it do for the community? What can it do?
Well, actually, I think it can do a lot, because right now, look at Marion County, how it's growing. Look at the actual
150 people a week. move here.
exactly, and think about all these families coming in, and the crowding that's happening. But yet, Marion County still managed to keep that score. That's tremendous. These teachers are. There's no way you can give them enough accolades for what they've done in this day and age. But the INA Colon Academy is going to be a little different in the fact that we really want every child to feel they have a place of belonging. And they can take those risks using the newest, latest tools and processes to learn and grow. Because think of what they've already got.
It seems like, from what I'm hearing you say, that you're going to do a novel idea. You're going to allow teachers to teach.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of school systems nowadays don't allow teachers to teach. They allow teachers to teach the curriculum they decide on.
Exactly.
You seem like with this academy, you're going to allow teachers to teach.
Yeah, it's one of the
And Marion
things
County allows teachers to teach, by the way.
Well, I think it's a respect thing.
Right.
They're professionals.
But the focus of the project-based learning, the social emotional learning too as well, but the project-based learning, I mean, you think about how that works. And I keep using an example of like you're teaching a class on irrigation or something. I mean, not how to irrigate your house, but just what is a world problem or what is a problem in our community. Maybe it's about saving water, conserving water. In one of the big places for using water is your yards. Or how can we save water? And maybe you have the plumber come in. We have somebody who's knowledgeable about plumbing, and they bring in PVC pipes and they teach the kids, and it could be second graders, could be first graders, and they're teaching them how to glue the pipes together, and they connect it to a faucet, and then they show them how water can be spread out through the room. So you've taught a first grader, hey, look, you got plumbing throughout your house, and this is how water supply works throughout your house.
Certainly.
Maybe you show them how a house is plumbed, and you're teaching them math, basic math, which is how
many gallons of water go through that?
how many
Certainly.
gallons of water, how many foot of pipe are you going to have, a linear foot of pipe, and then maybe you're talking about in science gravity and gravity-fed water, and then you're talking about
Groundwater.
in writing. You're learning about writing, and you're putting it all together, and then the child has looked at all this stuff, and they've looked at it in all the different areas, and then they've been exposed to another career field, and so you kind of do that, and you're saying, okay, now we're preparing a child, not necessarily to be a plumber, but to understand how all these different careers can
We're
can work
preparing
and
them
how
for
they're
the
related.
world.
You prepare them for the
Absolutely.
world, and that is really a big focus of what we're about, is preparing these children for the world.
One of the best education countries in the world, year in and year out, is Japan. And they've used project-based learning for 60 years, 70 years. I've always, I went to college, got my degree in secondary education. But the first 2 years, as we all know, I had to learn about the classics, and I had to learn college algebra, and I had to, do biology. And in Japan, you decide to be a teacher, 4 years of secondary education, college, is learning to be a teacher. It's
Absolutely.
giving you your project base. And I applaud you that this is the way you're opening the school up and going to do this.
Thank you.
Because I believe that's the way to success in the real world. Especially with a lot of people are getting more towards the engineering and more towards, you make good living doing manual labor like plumbing or electricity.
Absolutely.
That doesn't take a college degree.
Well, if you think about it, as we get into our circle of life, we don't have those trade jobs anymore.
No.
They're retiring, and we can't fill them fast enough. And then there's other jobs that have popped up and cropped up.
And like you said, there are jobs 20 years from now
Exactly.
that somebody that's born right now that at 6 years old 6 years from now will enter the first grade at the academy. They have no idea what job they may be suited for at 18 or 19 because that hadn't been invented yet, because we just don't know where we'll be.
Right, or they may be the one inventing new kind of
They
jobs.
may.
Exactly.
And that's what we want to give
And
them,
that's
is
what
the
we wanna give them, that-
creativity.
yeah.
The creativity and the courage to be able to create those new jobs.
But also
and
expose
understand
them
it.
to them.
Right, and
I mean,
expose
think how
them.
many jobs we can expose our kids to just in our community, and then branch that out. They know by the time that they would leave high school, we would hope, if we do our job, they're going to kind of know what they're good at and what they want to try, what's their passion.
I got lucky because I'm in that age range. My older sister, she's 6 years older than me. If you ask her about her computer literacy, she goes, I know how to turn it on and check my email. I got lucky that in the 10th grade, for the first time at our high school, we had 4 or 5 Apple IICs.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And there was a computer information systems class you could take. In the 11th grade, there was computer, because we had more computers. I was the first class that got introduced to computers, and I'm a little more computer literate than my sister, who's only 6 years difference.
Exactly.
But she only knows how to use a computer from trial and error, turning it on and checking email, where I know a lot more about computer use than she does. And I only had 3 years of it in high school. It was a brand new technology,
Absolutely.
but it was still something I was introduced to, so I wasn't frightened of it. And I think a lot of times you have to make kids understand what their passion is and understand goal-driven and what they like, so that they're not frightened of it.
Well, also, you want to make it relevant.
Right.
And the rigor's still got to be there. But at the same time, with that social emotional learning piece, they've got the grit to do it, the resilience to do it, and then they understand the rigor of it, but then make it relevant.
Thanks so much for coming in today. 30 minutes goes by fast.
It does.
It
Hey,
does,
just
it does.
if you want to learn more about the school, iacafl.org.
iacafl.org.
Yep, INA Academy.
Thanks for both of you for coming in
Thank
today.
you so much.
We'll be back
Appreciate you.
after this timeout.
State of emergency for 14 days amid a surge in wildfires that have forced hundreds